Welcome back to Hear Our Voices. It's your host, K-DiD Davis, and thank you for coming back every week to listen to our people with lived experience. Thank you guys for supporting us on Instagram. We have a small following, but I'm going to appreciate each and every one of you who come back every week to listen to us and who shares people's stories and share resources and things like that. I just want to put out there, can you please follow us on social media? Everything will be in the link tree down below. And if you have a person who has resources, we would love to have them to be able to help people. Right now, we're only taking resources from New York City because that's all we got the capacity for. And we're also taking stories for people who have lived experience with a child in shelter, with a child under 18, in any shelter or displacement or things like that, in that nature, any form of homelessness, street homelessness, anything like that. We are taking you. We would love to have and hear your story, so people can understand and really know how homelessness actually is and who it affects. A lot of times when people think about homelessness, they think about people in the street. A lot of the times they don't see the families and how the families, the mom, dad, aunts, uncles, cousins, the kids are. And you'd be surprised where a lot of people are living. Some are in shelter, some are in the parks. Can you imagine being in a park every night, especially if you live in a place like New York City where it has all the seasons? That's why a lot of times they go to hotter states to live, because it's more easier if they're going to be in the street. But in New York City, their homeless is usually in shelters. A lot of their homelessness is in shelters. But just put yourself in these people's shoes and transform how you think about homelessness and in a whole. So sit back and relax and hear Natalie's story, and see you at the end of this podcast, right? Hope you are enjoying this. Bye.
Women have babies every day. They're like, oh,
Right.
they have kids every day. Yeah, they have kids every day.
Right.
But, that's not easy
It's
going
not.
through labor. It's not easy. And I think honestly, if men would have to give labor, we would have a plethora of resources and
Definitely.
love.
For sure.
Anything that men go through, I feel like they always get every resource. They're like, oh man, men. But can you imagine, men get sick and they turn into man babies.
Right.
A woman gets sick and you still got to take care of the kids. You still got to do this. And even as a single
Correct.
mom, if you're a single parent, you have so much extra more pressure and duty to not only be perfect and do it right, because your kids, when you go to school, when you send them to school, they're going to be like, oh, they've got a single parent household, so then they look at your kid differently.
Right.
So they're just there's just so much with that.
It
That's my two
definitely
cents
is.
on it.
I think that single moms, it's honestly, it could be just not even single moms, just moms in general who have babies. It's a lot. It's a lot to be a mom and make sure things, and as you said, the men get to be man babies. We still have to bring the other kids to school. We got to make sure if you have a C-section, make sure the wound is okay, because it can get infected. God forbid. Everybody's process of pregnancy is definitely different.
Yeah.
If you tear down there, you got to make sure you clean that out every day. You can't laugh too hard. You got to breastfeed. Is the baby's gaining enough weight? Is the baby not gaining weight? Does the baby have a temperature? It's so much different things what could be factored in to you and the baby's care. And plus, you got to take care of other people around you if you have more than one child and you still got a husband. Thank you for the husbands out there who help. I'm just saying, or boyfriends who help with people who have kids, because sometimes the men don't always help because they just don't know they feel almost like disconnected because it's not really them going through it. They're just kind of in the background. Some men, they just know how to get in there. Some men have to be taught how to do it. And the men who come in after in the second quarter, shout out to you too. I'm just saying, shout out to you, because at least you didn't give up and you try your best to help with diapers, help with late night feedings. You can't pump, but you could, if the bottle is filled up in the fridge, all you gotta do is warm it up and give it to baby while mommy's sleeping. So thank you for the people who are the men and the people and family members who are doing this job, because it is not easy being a pregnant mom and being by yourself. It's not easy
No,
going through
not
it by
at
yourself.
all.
It's not easy. Well, I didn't do the late nights. I don't know how that is. Apparently, people get up at night feeding their kids. I got up at night, but my daughter was sleeping. I just pop a bottle in her mouth while she's on her back, and she never cried like for months. at night in general. She didn't cry that much regardless. So I was lucky in that regard. But some moms, I heard it, they wake up, every hour the child's getting up, this and that. It's very hard. Like, people consider their pets, as their children. It's much worse than this because you can get in trouble for not taking care of your pet, but this is a whole person, and ACS will
Yeah,
come to your
and you
door.
didn't birth it. You didn't birth it. You don't have the hormones. You're not,
Exactly.
I don't think you're as sleep deprived as, I've had a puppy. I've
Right.
trained him. He's very well trained, like
Right.
my children.
Take a couple of
So,
years to get them together. Like, even after,
yeah.
they're not usually
But
trained
you
after
can't
a
lock
year.
your kid in the crate overnight so that they
Right.
don't pee on themselves. You know what I mean? Like you got to change a diaper overnight. You can't let them sit in that because then they'll
Exactly.
end up with certain diaper rash and whatnot. So I
Right.
mean, it is not. It definitely.
It's
I
not the
mean,
same.
it's not the same at all. And to sit there and say that kids are like animals, I
People
mean,
always say that though, like, this is my baby. I understand if you don't have children, that might really feel like it's your baby, but you haven't experienced having a child. But it's not the same thing. The stand, at this point, society might have put it kind of higher than kids in some places. I feel like they do a lot for animals. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do much for animals. I'm just saying people, little humans, are basically an extension of you, and you got to make sure they're taken care of. As she said, with the diapers, you gotta make sure they feed, especially for little ones. They pee a lot more, so they can get dehydrated faster, and they have to drink a lot. So they're usually drinking every 2 hours. That means their pampers should be changed almost every 2 hours. So it's a lot to make sure this person, and when they're so young, they get diseases faster. Like this lady, she just had a baby, I don't say 2.5 weeks ago, and I think it's called rhino disease, I believe. But because the baby is not that like old, um, it's hard for the baby to fight off this, and they don't have vaccinations yet. If you know, babies after a while, they get up to 2 months, they get a lot of vaccinations in that time period, so they can get sick on a lot of just blowing in the air, and they can get sick like that. It takes a lot to keep these little humans alive. Like, you didn't pop up as an adult; you had to work your way on up there. Remember chickenpox back in the day? Like, these are things and steps what has to happen for you to become who you are today. So just be,
and it's not
mindful of
something
that.
that's just like like some what do you say, like I don't know, not everyone, knows so much about being, a parent or,
That's true.
keeping a little baby alive, I was lucky because I come from a big Mexican family and we're expected to, take care of all the kids, no matter what
Right.
age you are. I mean, if you can walk and talk, you can take care of a kid.
Right.
So So I don't
That's very
remember when
true.
I started like taking care of kids and cooking and cleaning and learning all of that. So for me, having a child at 19 was it was just like second nature for me. But I've seen people who are in their 40s having children late and just like cannot chew gum and walk at the same time. It's so
Right.
they're like a fish out of water. They don't
For
know
real.
what to do. They don't know what to do, and and it's hard for me to be like, how do you not know,
Yeah.
but trying to give them understand and not be hypercritical because
Right.
I think we're tough on ourselves already.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's there's a lot you have to know, you have to know about jaundice. What do you do about that?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was taught, from young, it's like, oh, you would hear them, oh, they have jaundice. You've got to put them a little bit in the sunlight so that that can go away. And I
Right.
just was like, oh, I knew that automatically at 19. Like, oh, my kid's looking a little, yellowish there. Let me go put him, in the sunlight because that's what I learned,
Right.
and that's what worked. And so there's just all these small things that people don't learn. And on top of that, not many people are having children at the rate that they did back in the
That's
90s,
true.
80s and 90s when I was growing up. Because I was born in 81. And
Wow.
I mean, yeah, and I was watching kids when I was like 7.
Me too. Me
So
too.
probably earlier, I had a whole house full of kids, and I'm not gonna lie, but I don't ever remember my mom being around unless You know, unless she was like locking us out, locking the screen door and telling us not to come back until the sun started going down. So
Exactly.
like I don't ever remember her ever being around, but she worked a lot. So that's why, you know, my sister and I, we had to take care of siblings constantly.
Got it. Got it. Now I understand, for sure. My brother was born, but my second to last brother was born when I was 7. My father had other kids. That's why I say second to last brother. To be clear, as people are like, what is she talking about? My second to last brother, my mother had, and I was living with her. And after a certain age, she just left me in the house with him. And then she'll say, don't cook any food. But like, if we're in the house for hours at a time, we got to eat. So she would hate me going on the stove, but I would have to do it. I remember changing Pampers. Then my mother, he had a babysitter. So I used to go to the babysitter after school. And sometimes, like when I'm sick or half a days and I go there, the lady would go to a place called Jamaica Avenue. Where she was is in Laurelton, and Jamaica Avenue is like a 30-minute, 25 minutes to 30-minute bus ride, depending how you do everything. And she would leave me with, it was 4 kids my brother's age, so like 2 years old, with 4 babies 2 years old, and other kids there who are under 5. And she would leave, at the time I think it was 8 or 9. She would just leave me like, just don't answer the door. What do you mean, miss? But now that'd be harder to do. People still probably do it, but it was I
My
honestly am happy
generation, we
that it
still do
happened.
it because we're like, we survived. We
It's true.
survived. Like,
It's
you'll
true.
be
I
all
think the kids now
right.
are different though. The kids now, they handle it. They break a
Well,
nail
they
and
have
they
laws
finish.
now that you can't leave your kid past a certain age. But
That's
get
true.
this, I think Washington State doesn't have that law.
Really?
Yeah, because I was, you know, like I'm not gonna lie, I was so desperate, like counting on family members who were just not right.
Right.
I mean, you know, bless their hearts because they had the best of intentions, you
Right.
know, and they're really good people. They just got you know, they've got some
What's
vices
going on?
that I
Right.
prefer not to have around my children, or if you're
Right.
gonna like, you know, do it on your own time, not on my time, like, you
Exactly.
know. I mean, I don't hate anyone with whatever they got going on.
Right.
Just like, you know, when we have an agreement, you need to uphold that agreement.
That's definitely true. You're a
So,
person of your
so
word. But yeah.
yeah, so like, you know, at a certain point, I was just like, well, at what age can, you know, I leave my oldest, who's like almost a 6-year age difference,
Right.
with my youngest.
Right.
And they were like, well, you know, we prefer that you don't do it. And I was just like, you know, at some point when he was like 9, I thought to myself, well, you know what? Like, I really feel like he has the wherewithal. Like, you know, I was
No,
like,
did
he's
you
my
feel
kid. He
it
can't be a moron.
sometimes? Did you feel it or you wanted to feel it? Because it could be a difference. You could feel it because you need to get the stuff done, or he really was responsible. Which one was
No,
it?
he really was responsible
Okay,
because
that's
I
good.
just like, I mean, it was just like, I'm just going to work. So
Right.
it was more like, you know, your brother's in kindergarten, like, you know, like we'll have the neighbor pick him up, but y'all go to the house and I want you to
Right.
stay there. Don't let no one in.
Right.
Because in a way, I wanted, like, I felt like that was safer,
Right.
and letting the neighbor watch them for forever.
That's
Because
true.
like, I'm just like, yes, I like the neighbor, she's a great person, but I don't know who she has in her house.
That's the thing too. Oh my
And you
gosh.
know, like coming from like trauma
Right.
and things like that, I'm just like, I think when you survive sexual abuse as a child,
Yeah.
your biggest fear is
It happened to your
something like that
kids.
happening to your kid. And you're just
Yes.
like, I have to protect you at all costs.
That's so
And
true.
so in a lot of ways, you project all your fears onto your kids,
For
and so it
sure.
makes them, you know, I feel like now my kids just don't. They're just like, man, we feel like you got ulterior motives, like,
Right.
because I'm always like that. I'm just like, I'm not. I don't know, like, you know, when people invite me to their house so early and things like that, I'm just like, I don't know you.
Right.
Like, that's weird.
Even the
And
people you know, you be surprised because people act one way in front of your face, but when you're not there,
yeah,
they act differently. And I think that's what
yeah.
it's so crazy. I never put this out publicly, but when I was a kid, my mom used to leave me at this lady's house. Well, it's my god sister, and her family. Her family was excellent. I could say they're excellent people. Her father died, and I call him my dad. excellent people. The problem is that the people they had around them weren't excellent people. So they might have been excellent, and you might have your kids in good hands, but the people who their friends they bring over might be the problem. The person themselves might be a great, excellent. They take care of it. They used to make sure my showers together. Never did nothing bad to me. Took care of me. Christmas. I used to be doing Christmas and Thanksgiving at their house. I'd be in their room sleeping. I used to sleep over all the time, and my mother had to go to work. And my mother knew these people from like Jamaica. My family, if you don't know, is Jamaican. And the people they brought around me did stuff to me. So it's like they were wonderful. The lady had it was a man and a wife, and he had 3 kids, 1 girl and 2 boys. And the boys would never, they're like big brothers to me. They would have never done anything harmful to me. Their friends were the problem. And that's the thing people don't think about. Like, you might have the bestest person around you. You have to ask that person, are you bringing people around my kids? Or like, if you know this person, the person who like to bring people around them in general, maybe ask that person to be maybe not like mean, but say, can you please, when my kids are there, don't bring nobody else around the house. Like, just to be cautious. Like you said earlier, you end up, because stuff happened to you as a younger child, you are extra precautious on 1,000, because you don't want the same thing, and you know how that could carry on to an adulthood and could affect other parts in your life. People don't think that stuff they do to children can affect them as in a 20, 30, 40-year-old. It does. You are shaped by the things that happen to you as a child. That's why it's always good to have certain things happen to kids at a certain age, like 5 and below is really developmental age, even when they get older, because the things what happen to them as kids shape what they do in adulthood. So I'm great that came up, because I'm like, just be careful, guys. I'm just saying, put it out there. I know you want to work.
I mean, it's so hard.
It
It's
is.
so hard, there's I feel like you're at your most vulnerable when you're homeless, when you're a single mother,
Right.
because you want so desperately to be a part of the community,
Right.
to have a community, to feel supported. But still, in the back of your mind, you're alone. You're like, okay, yes, I'm happy that you want to help me, but I don't know if I can trust that person. Like, I don't, I'd rather, sometimes it's like, I'd rather, figure it out myself or suffer for this amount of time until, until I can let my kids be by themselves so that I can, work and know that they're safe at home. And I think that's where I came from with letting the kids stay at home so that after school so that I can work. So I don't I don't regret my choices, but I do feel like it made them in a way kind of grow up faster.
Right.
So, but you know what? I'm not here for mom guilt. So
Definitely
that's
not. You're an
fine.
awesome mom.
So I'm not
You
gonna
did.
I'm not gonna feel guilty about that at all because they seem to be good kids.
That's
They're
good.
very caring, kind, and you know what? They got to have a childhood that I wish I had.
Right.
So, which to me is more important than them having to suffer a couple of hours with some Lunchables and
Right.
Uncrustables.
Some kids out there
If
getting
that's your
nothing.
biggest problem, then
Right.
I don't feel sorry for you.
Right. For sure. You're a great mom. It sounded like you was good. You really wanted the best for your kids. You wanted to keep them out of harm's way. You fed them. You put a house over there. Like, you did your part. I'm not gonna compare, but some people don't got nothing. So if you did that,
Yeah,
and that's just the minimum, and I know you did more than that, you're excellent. I'm just saying, you're excellent.
thank you. I don't think anyone's ever told me that, so I'll keep that.
I'm just I don't like to compare, but I do it a lot, and sometimes I think I do it in a negative way, and I need to work on that. But I I'm a person who likes to be grateful for everything that you have. At one point, I had cataract in my eyes, so I couldn't see nothing, and now I could, like, I don't see 20/20, but I could see. So I try to be grateful. At one point, I couldn't see, and now I can see. I might not do as much as
Yep.
everybody else and as fast as everybody else, but I want to be so grateful because it could be so much worse. Like, I was homeless, but I wasn't living on the street. I was like, I didn't always have toilet paper, but if I needed something, I had to go to McDonald's to get some paper. Like, I try to be grateful because it could be worse that I couldn't walk. And with the
Wow.
I was born with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, which is affects your joints, and some people
Oh
end up in
yeah.
wheelchairs. I'm happy
Yeah.
that I'm grateful to walk. I'm grateful. I'm happy. I'm grateful to see. And you can't always dwell in the past about things. You just have to kind of honestly. I suffered with depression before and anxiety, and depression goes here and there. Especially around the holidays, it's hard for me. But I try to make sure I put myself in like and pray to God like and put myself by the bootstraps. Like you have to make it. Especially when I have a daughter. I think it's so much easier to get better for me because I have my kid. Before without my kid, I was like, I was still in the depression just a little bit longer. With my kid, I wanted her to see the best and know that mommy can make it. And I want her to be the woman that a better woman than I ever can, right? So and I think on the personally, I think better than my personal mom. In my mind, I raised myself. So I want my daughter to be a better mom and a better person than I am. And I feel like so far she's kinder than I am. I don't know, like I feel like I'm kind, but she's as a child, compared to me as a her and a child, she's a kinder person than I am. Um, it might hurt her a little
Having
bit in the
met her
future.
and you, I would say that's true. No,
But I think
she she's a little spitfire. I
she
really love
is.
her.
She gives you attitude, but she like even just sharing. But like she was basically the only child until I got my foster daughter. So sharing, she's much. When I was a kid, I was not sharing with people. My mother had to get me and my brother separate things that I was not about that sharing life. And it's like
Oh,
I'm blessed that she came out that way, and she's already a better person than I am, a smarter. Compared to bookwork, she's smarter and better than me in schoolwork. I think she's gonna be amazing in the future. Not because she's my daughter, but what the stuff I actually see her do and how she is in school. And I
yeah.
make sure I take her education very seriously. I know this is not the topic, guys, but I'm just saying, I think even when I'm in the trials of everything and being homeless and these things happening to me, I try to make sure not to stay in the problems too long and try to think about what's the next step to get this thing better. With my eyes, I took the first surgery for one eye 1 year when I was 13, the other one by 17. I had to they didn't want to do them right away because you have to get your eyes stable to a certain degree before they even go in your eye because the inflammation can be so much after surgery. And my condition that I have gives you a lot of information, so they want to make sure it's stable before they go in. So
Hmm.
I just try to think about what's the next step, what to do, what medication I got to take for this and that, and that's I'm giving you a lot in this podcast. I'm saying I give you about my life, my trauma. I'm giving, but you know what? I
I
am
mean,
blessed.
that's what I do. I've always been told that like people really can like let their guards down with me. And I think that's me. I'm always the kind of person I'm like, well, if you got something to say, just sit next to me because I'll listen. I'll
Right,
ask the right questions. I'll pull it out. I'll make you feel so comfortable so that I can
right.
get the whole story.
But you're such a nice person. Like I met you, and you're so cool. You're just so down to earth. Like we don't come from the
Oh,
same walks
yeah.
of life or even the parts of the country, but it's still good that we can come together and still talk about stuff and really relate. I think that's what it is. You're very relatable. You're a very nice person. I think that's what it is. That's the key.
Well, I found with being genuine and being real, I mean,
Right,
you have to be like, there's so many times, having been homeless, I used to feel like ashamed to say that. And
right,
not till recently, I've actually been able to say that. People that I've worked with prior have
right.
known me for such a long time, but I have never invited them to my apartment. I've never,
Mm,
like I just was very a private person,
right,
because I didn't want them to think that, less of me or feel bad for me, or anything like that. So I never really told people, that I was homeless at one time or
right,
anything like that. In fact, I'm not one to tell people like my childhood story or anything that I've ever really dealt with,
right,
because I just don't I don't like feeling vulnerable. I think
right,
that's what it is. It's really hard for me to feel to just really say, um, I'm struggling, I need help or
right,
stuff like that. Just recently, and here's the thing with having, being homeless, there's probably a population of homeless who have never suffered any real like traumas in their past. And
right,
so, they, the only trauma they've had is, being homeless and what comes with that, right?
right,
But you're talking to someone who has probably experienced, several different areas of trauma.
right,
Um, you know, had I gone out of the military, um, and had a home to go to, I would
Right.
have been fine. But when I
Right.
was 16, my father and uncle were murdered in the home that I grew up in.
Oh, wow. This came to a
And
twist.
my father raised me. So
Right.
there was that extra, like, I had no
Layer.
home to go to.
Right.
So I think that trauma
Right.
really kind of amplified my homelessness because it really settled in that I have nowhere to really go.
Right.
And I think that hopelessness really took me to a place where I thought, I'm not going to make it. Like, this is the time that, fortunately, I didn't go down the path of drugs.
Right.
But I thought to myself, like, is this the time? Do I just give up and start doing that?
Right.
Is this the point where you start, doing the drugs? Like, what, or is does it have to be something you like?
Right.
Does your brain have to be wired for it? Like, it had me thinking, like, like what are my avenues here, my outlets?
So
And I
true.
think for me it's just kind of like just putting those jokes out there in my own mind. I'm just like laughing at myself. I'm like, what is wrong with you, Natalie? Like why do you think you're being funny? This is a serious situation.
Right.
You're about to have a baby, you don't have nowhere to go, dummy.
Right.
I'm just like, and in my head I'm thinking, well, maybe I should be a crackhead. Like, why not? I've got all sorts of other, like I can justify it with like everything that I've been
That's
through.
so true, though. That is so true. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna put something else out there.
I mean,
I
that's the only
honestly,
thing I haven't done. And I'm
I'm
like, maybe I should do it to do it. I don't know.
not gonna lie to you. I was thinking maybe like when I got to my lowest, and I feel like I had not enough money. I thought stripper would be the best concept to do because you make a lot of money. You don't have to really have sex with people like that. Well, if some people do, some people don't, depending. But you make money and there's no
I don't
drugs
knock
involved. Like
anybody's
people, some
hustle.
people do. But I didn't know what to do. I understand what you mean. Like, what else can I turn to to help me in this situation? And it's always the worst
Yeah.
things come to your brain. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, what is my coping mechanism? For me, I think it's, for me, it's making a joke out of something, like trying to
Right.
find the comedy in life, right?
That's true. Hey guys, you got to the end of this week's podcast. Thank you for listening. Again, follow us on all our social medias. Definitely check us out. We're trying to grow our channel, our podcast here. And if you're a person with a story or a person with a resource, definitely DM us and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you again. Share with your community and spread the word. And always try to be kind to people because you don't know what problems they're going through. Anyway, guys, later. Bye.